I'm Pat Baillie, and I'm Director of Training and Professional Development here at Out and Equal. And I've been here for about 4.5 years, and we do a lot of training. One of the areas that we train around is around sexual orientation. And today we're going to take a look at some of the aspects of sexual orientation and the fact that we all have one. A lot of people, when they're asked the question of do you have a sexual orientation, they think you're being asked if you're gay, when in fact there are heterosexuals who are attracted to other sex. There are homosexuals who are attracted to the same sex. There's bisexuals attracted to both, and asexuals who are attracted to neither. When we look around and we look at the business case and we start talking about organizations and their employee resource groups, you look at them and you see they don't have a lot of bisexuals or transgender in their organizations. And so you want to make sure that you're outreaching to those groups. So understanding what it means to be bisexual or transgender is an important part of that. So this is Dani, who works here at Out and Equal, and this is her story. And maybe you can identify and learn some things from that.
Hi, my name is Dani Siragusa, and I work at Out and Equal Workplace Advocates, and I came out as bisexual at work in 2008. A few years ago, my organization applied for a grant, and the grant requested that they list the sexual orientation of all the employees at the workplace. And when the grant was handed out, the completed grant was handed out to the staff, I noticed that everyone had been identified as lesbian, gay, or straight, and which puzzled me because I had come out as bisexual a few months prior. So when I went to my HR department, I asked them why nobody was listed as bisexual, and the HR representative said to me, "I thought you were straight." And I was very puzzled by this, and it was an instance of me not feeling like my bisexuality was being taken seriously and was overlooked. And because of that, I felt a very large disconnect with the organization and kind of went back into the closet and didn't talk about my bisexuality at work for a couple of years. A few months after the grant application incident, I was in a staff meeting and the topic of bisexuality was brought up, and one of my coworkers stated that she didn't think that bisexuality was real and she didn't believe in it. And that was very upsetting to me. It made me very angry, but because of the incident that had happened earlier, I didn't feel like I could stand up for myself, and I was silent. And it was another instance of kind of pushing me a little bit deeper into the closet at work. With my current position at Out and Equal, I feel a lot more open, and mainly this is because of the support that I get from my peers and the leadership team at work. I've been asked to be a part of the Bisexual Advisory Committee team, as well as getting continued support from my peers and my colleagues to be more open and out about who I am and contribute to the conversation. And because of this, I'm not 100% comfortable with being bisexual at work, but I'm definitely getting there. And I would say the last year has been a lot easier and has made me feel more confident to be out about who I am.
So that's Dani's story, and you can see that there's a lot of issues in the workplace when you think about that. And how we identify in the workplace, sometimes nobody asks. If you think about self-identification, you find somebody who might be lesbian, might be gay, bisexual, but there's no way of tracking that. So how does a company know how we're doing in those areas? One of the ways that Out and Equal recommends is that you have voluntary self-ID in things like your satisfaction survey that you do every year, or information through your employee resource group, where you know where your bisexuals are if they're willing to identify. Now, don't be surprised if in the beginning they're not willing to come out, because they're curious about what you are going to do with that information. So once they see that you're making an honest effort to change the climate and help make it more comfortable for everyone, no matter what their sexual orientation is, you'll begin to see that a change and willingness to come out and have open discussions. Now, what's the point of all that? Basically, in the workplace, what you're talking about is people aren't worrying about what's being said about them or what people are thinking about them. They're getting the job done, they're 100% engaged, and they're supporting the company. Now, there are a lot of myths and stereotypes that we want to think about, and we want to make sure we debunk and kind of summarize in this. A lot of people talk about the fact that bisexuality doesn't exist. People are either gay or straight. There's been research for a long ways back, all the way back to Kinsey, that indicated that there's probably a lot more people that are in the continuum of bisexuality rather than 100% gay or 100% straight. So it's a real and actual orientation. It's been studied, it's been identified, and it is part of the community called LGBT and sexual orientation. I think everyone is bisexual is another myth that we hear. And that's kind of like a blanket. It's like saying everyone likes vanilla ice cream or everyone likes to live in the suburbs. It's a blanket statement that makes it easy to say we're all like that, when in fact many people don't identify that way. And trying to put us all together as kind of that, I don't see your orientation or I don't know who you are. So we spend a lot of time not dealing with each other then, instead of being real about who we are and celebrating that there is diversity among that sexual orientation. You're too femme or you're too butch to be bisexual. Now those are new terms we might have just introduced there. So femme is looking more feminine dressed in gender expression. Butch is more masculine for a woman or for a man. And when you're talking about how people look, that's another concept entirely. We can go back to the concepts again and say gender expression and how people look and how they dress is very, very different from how they identify their gender, their sexual orientation, and it's a different concept. So no matter how I dress or how I look, that's a stereotype. And what we think about when it comes to mind when I say the word bisexual, you might have ideas that come into your head, but realize that those are your images or what you've been taught or what you've heard or what you think. And it's not the reality. When you look around and you look at a group of pictures of bisexuals, many times people don't recognize who's bisexual. There is no one size fits all. Bisexual people just want straight privilege. That's another one of those myths that really gets in trouble, and it's actually a lot more within the LGBT community. Because what happens is you say, if you're with a man, you're not really LGBT, you're not supporting us. And if you're with a woman, that's okay, because then you are part of our community. Bisexuals face a lot of discrimination and a lot of biphobia in the workplace. People are afraid of them. And although we don't see it as much with the heterosexual community, the straight community, having those issues, we do hear a lot of times from lesbian and gay employees that they get nervous about someone who's bisexual. Can I trust them? You know, what are they going to do when they get with a partner that's of the opposite sex? This creates a wall and creates a difficult working environment as people try to change and be real, because those bisexuals may not wish to come to the workplace and tell you who their new partner is if you already have some set up expectations. And when you start keeping secrets in the workplace, that's when you get in trouble, and that's when you make the workplace a harder place to be. And now let's go back to Dani and hear what some of her suggestions are of how to work with bisexuals in the workplace.
The most important thing about being out in the workplace, no matter if you're LGB or T, is to be confident and open about who you are. The more in the closet you are, the more insecure you will become, and the less people will take you seriously. And that's one of the biggest challenges about being bisexual, is it's very misunderstood. And by being out and being open, you give a face to bisexuality and you debunk all of the myths and stereotypes that go along with that. So by coming out, not only are you doing a service to yourself, you're doing a service to the people around you. And it will make you more trusting, more open, more creative, and better at your job, and give you the ability to bring your whole self to work.